Okay, great. We're still on. Wonderful. Thank you, Pam. All right. Any questions on what this program can do for you? All right. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about the foundation of this program and all the things that are included in this program in of itself. So the first one is nutrition. But before I actually start talking about nutrition, I want to bring up a quote from Thomas Edison. And Thomas Edison lived from 1847 to 1931. And what Thomas Edison said was, the doctor of the future will no longer treat the human frame with drugs, but rather will cure and prevent disease with nutrition. Cure and prevent disease with nutrition, which is food. I think this is amazing for somebody who lived at the turn of the century when pharmaceuticals themselves were just coming into birth. Does anybody know when pharmaceuticals first started, as we know them today? No? Early 1900s. They've only been around a little over 100 years. I think it's funny when people talk about New Age or new ways of doing things, and referring to herbs and natural remedies. I'm just like, if you only knew what really New Age was. You know, New Age is what we've been doing the last 120 years, and we're sicker now than we were before that. You know, there's been a lot of great advancements, but those advancements don't really weigh out with where we're at now compared to where we were at 120 years ago. So I just think that's really cool that he had the foresight to see that. All right, so let's talk about nutrition. We're going to go to page 7 of our In.Form program here real quick. All right. So the meal plan. Of course, the meal plan is really easy, simple. The thing is, you got to realize is you will not starve on this program. In fact, I had a text right before we started class from one of my ladies from last night, one of my newbies. And she said to me, quote unquote, "Holy cow, how am I going to eat this much food?" But literally, you will not starve on this program. If anything, it may be a little challenge to get all the food in, but I do challenge you to get in as much as you can, because it's going to be very important for us. The other really cool thing about this particular program is this program is not based on calories, and it's not based on measurements outside of what you already have on your hand. And I think that's a really cool thing, because that way you can be able to measure what you need specifically wherever you go, as long as you have your hand with you. So we're going to count the servings by our hands. We'll talk about that in a moment. Another thing we need to realize on this program is we need to be eating 3 meals and 2 snacks per day. 3 meals, 2 snacks per day, which is 5 times a day. That doesn't mean big stuff. It could be just like a handful of almonds. It can be, you know, just a small protein shake. It doesn't have to be big stuff, a small salad. But we do want to focus on eating 5 times a day, every 2 to 3 hours. The every 2 to 3 hours is very important, because not only does that balance our blood sugar levels, but it helps us be more in control of what we're going to eat when we go to eat the next time. We're not like so starving we go to the grocery store and we buy everything we see because everything looks good. Okay? So we want to make sure that we are eating or snacking every 2 to 3 hours. All right? So if you look at the bottom of page 7, we're looking at 3 meal proteins a day. So 3 meal proteins, everybody take out your hand, take out your measurement with you. Okay? A meal protein for you is going to be the size of your hand from the bottom of your fingertips all the way down to the top of your wrist, right there. That's a meal protein for you, 1/2 inch thick. 1/2 inch thick. So if you're eating a chicken breast or a lean piece of steak or whatever it may be, that's the size of meal protein you should be eating at that time. If you're doing a snack protein, it's going to be 1/2. So if you imagine a line going across here from where the thumb meets the hand down to the top of the wrist, that's your snack size protein. You're going to be doing 2 of those per day. And when we talk about protein shakes and nuts, we'll explain those a little bit more, because those both could be snacks as well, or meals. Not the nuts, but the shakes. Vegetables. It's important that you get in 6 vegetables per day. 6 vegetables per day. Now, a serving size of a vegetable is either going to be a cup or 1/2 a cup. It depends on the vegetable. If we've got broccoli or cauliflower that's not as dense, A whole cup is going to be your whole fist from the top of your wrist all the way around. That's a whole cup for you. It's not one cup measurement, it's your cup, okay? Half a cup is going to be basically there from right across from where the fingers kind of tuck in there all the way up. That's going to be your half a cup. So if you're having like sliced carrots, that's your half a cup serving, which is your one serving. Make sense? So depending on the vegetable, it's either going to be a whole cup or half a cup. 6 of them a day. The next thing we need to concentrate on is 5 ounces of leafy greens. This is the only thing you need to probably look at and get a measurement on, all right? If anybody is familiar with buying the salad mixes in the bigger containers, most of those are 10 ounces. The smaller one is 5 ounces, and that's 5 ounces of leafy greens per day that we really need to focus in on. This is probably the area where most people are challenged, but at the same time, it's the area where most people get to feed these guys in the most healthiest way they possibly can. So we really need to find out how we can get all those greens in throughout the day. It doesn't have to be fresh. You can cook some of them. You can put some in your smoothie. I know Lynn does that to get her greens in per day. There's all sorts of different ways to get it in. Anytime you eat something, just throw a bunch of lettuce on top of it. Not lettuce as far as iceberg lettuce, but spring mix or something like that on top. Just get in the habit of always having that around and just adding it to every meal if you possibly can. Fruit. So fruit is limited to 1 serving per day, all right? And that's going to depend, of course, on the type of fruit as well. Usually we're looking at about a half a cup. Now, you'll notice when you look through this list, you don't see carbohydrates. We don't see breads. We don't see pastas, okay? We don't even see rice. Reason being is carbohydrates are a sugar. When they break down into a sugar. And what feeds on sugar? Anybody? Bad bacteria. So since we're going to take the next 9 to 13 weeks and starve these guys and eliminate them, we have to take away as much of their food sources as possible, which includes fruit right now. So when we're done with the program, you'll be able to incorporate more fruit into your program because now these guys will be just as big, if not bigger than these guys, and these guys will be eliminated primarily. Your body will actually feed on those good sugars in a positive way, all right? But for right now, we need to keep the fruits low because we need to get rid of these guys. That's what our focus is, okay? Legumes are optional. If you're vegetarian, obviously legumes are going to step in a little bit more. But if you're not vegetarian, they're going to either replace the fruit. So you can go back and forth between the fruit, and that's 1 serving per day. Oils and fats, really, really important. Oils and fats, we need 5 servings a day of oils and fats. And even though that sounds like a lot, it's really not. Because 5 servings of fats is actually very, very small. And we'll take a look at that in a moment. But 5 servings of oils and fats per day, you'll have to start getting creative on how you can add that to your meals every day because it's very important and a very integral part of this program. Water. Now water is a really big one for most people. If you weigh 150 pounds, okay, if you weigh 150 pounds, you need to drink half your body weight in ounces of water per day. 75 ounces is your minimum, not maximum, minimum per day. Next week, we're going to talk more about how to drink water and get it in efficiently the right way. But for right now, just need to wrap your mind around getting in your minimum ounces per day. All right? Now, if you are a coffee drinker, and you're going to drink 8 ounces of coffee a day, all right? You need to add that same amount to your minimum. So now this person who weighs 150 pounds, their minimum 75 ounces, they drink 8 ounces of coffee a day, so now they are at 83 ounces of water per day. And that goes for teas, sodas, anything. Of course, we're not going to be really drinking teas and sodas on this program or lemonade or anything like that. But just to give you an idea of how that works to hydrate the body. Any questions on water? Anybody want to drink some water? Okay, you guys got that? Let's move on.
You missed dairy.
Huh?
You missed dairy.
Oh, did I miss dairy? Oh, thank you very much. Dairy. Okay, so dairy is optional. Dairy, of course, if you have any kind of lactose intolerance issues, I highly advise you stay away from it completely. Dairy is optional to like 1 serving per day. We'll look at the serving sizes of different dairies. I just want you to think about your body and what's going on when it comes to dairy. If you like cheese a lot, but you have sluggish eliminations, you really need to get rid of the dairy as much as possible, in the form of cheese, as much as you can during the program. If you have normal, consistent eliminations, which we'll talk about a little bit more later on, then cheese is not such a big deal. But you need to think about what you already know about your body when it comes to dairy. I personally don't do very much cow, unless it is organic raw cheese. But I do like to use my dairy in my smoothies. A lot of people enjoy doing that. So you're just going to have to be creative. If you're a coffee drinker and you need to have some creamer in your coffee, then that may be your dairy for the day. So you just got to kind of figure out, A, what can your body handle, what's best for your body in a dairy, and how you can fit that in that's going to most satisfy you. Make sense? Thank you, Jerry Ann. All right. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about exercise. So I don't know where Shiree went, but oh, looking for you. I'm like, wait a minute, where'd she go? So Shiree's going to come up and she's going to share a little bit more about with us the importance of exercise.
How are you guys? Good. I know most of you probably have exercised at some point in your life and done different forms of exercise, but like anything, like diet, because we've been talking a lot about nutrition, it's hard to maintain, or it's hard to find things that we enjoy, which I might use this to kind of illustrate what our goal is we want to combine proper nutrition or whole food nutrition with whole effort exercise. And I like this chart because it illustrates why it's important to have both, because you know we can balance our gut microbiome with nutrition, but we really can't do that with exercise alone. We can't build muscle with diet alone. And so when we combine the two, we get these benefits here in the center as well. And so that's our goal, is to help you to be able to combine the two so that you can get the most benefits you can, and also so you can maintain them. Because I know Shar talks a lot about not viewing this as a diet, but viewing it as a lifestyle. And so one of the biggest reasons why we need to exercise is because every decade we lose about 2 to 4% of our resting metabolic rate, or our body's ability to metabolize things, as well as, you know, our strength and our flexibility. We lose a lot as we age, and it doesn't matter if you're 25, 35, 45, that process starts in your early 20s. So, and unfortunately nowadays I feel like you feel it way sooner. And I don't know if that's because of all the things you're going to learn about, like toxins, our food supply, you know, how good a quality is it, things like that. But people at younger and younger ages are starting to develop different disorders and diseases and problems. And so it's really important to start exercising when you're young. And as you get older, hopefully you can maintain your metabolic rate to the best ability that you can. One of the biggest factors that contribute to this reduction in your resting metabolic rate is loss of muscle. Because on average, people lose about 5 pounds a year. And once you hit menopause, that's going to get worse as your bone density decreases, and usually we become even more inactive. So it's never too late. We can always experience benefits from exercise, or we can slow or prevent a lot of the process of aging. There's a lot of studies out there, and most studies will say that you need to do high intensity exercise to increase your muscle mass, or to get stronger, or to prevent that decline. But what do you think happens to most people if they're not physically active, if they start to suddenly do high intensity exercise? Does anybody want to guess what might happen? You'll quit because it's difficult, right? Or a lot of people, and even myself, experience injuries And injuries are usually caused from starting out at a higher intensity than your body can handle, whether that be going too hard as far as weights, or it could be going too hard and challenging your heart. And so that leads to injuries or different problems. And so it's really important that we understand that even though high intensity exercise, you know, the research studies say it's the most beneficial, but sometimes that's the highest risk of injury. And so it's important that we take certain steps to build up our body slowly, so that way we hope to reach that point where we can do high intensity exercise. But the reality is that some exercise is better than no exercise, right? And what's intense for you may be different than what's intense for Chloe back there. You know, she can do jumping jacks and run. You know, maybe we're not at a point in our life where we can do that anymore without experiencing problems. And so for us, it might be walking up an incline is hard. You know, go hiking, and that's really difficult. Whereas for others, it might be easier. And so think about high intensity for you is something that's slightly uncomfortable. But don't start out at a high intensity, gradually increase your intensity over time. Now, does that mean that you can't get benefits from exercise if it's low intensity? Maybe all you can do is do light walking to start out, and maybe that's all you do the rest of your life. I honestly can't do heavy weightlifting anymore because I have some joint problems. I've had some injuries. There's a lot of good research to show that even if all we can do is low intensity exercise, which is light walking, cycling, or even light swimming, that for 48 hours after a single bout of low intensity exercise, you increase your body's ability to use insulin. If any of you know anything about diabetes, about ones that have problems regulating their blood sugar, it's really important that your body be able to take in the insulin. Some people don't make enough insulin, so their body needs to use everything they have. Or maybe their body's resistant to the insulin, it doesn't want to take it in, and so even though their body's releasing it, it's not able to use it. So think for 48 hours after you do a single bout of exercise, your body is able to do that more efficiently. So even if all you did was walk, we're still going to see some good benefits. And of course we know it reduces our, we have less cardiovascular events, or reduces blood pressure and things like that have to do with heart health. So it's not a thing where we have to get out there and start doing jumping jacks, running, lifting heavy weights. There's a lot we can do with just basic, simple walking. So for some of you, maybe you haven't done any exercise routine at all, and for you, being physically active might be a first step. Does anybody know what I mean by saying, do you know what the difference is between being physically active and doing like structured exercise? Does anybody know the difference? Anybody think of an example of doing something physically active? Anyone? Come on, Shar. No.
So
Okay.
gardening.
There you go. Gardening, cleaning the house, raking leaves, playing with the kids. I would say if you're going to the point of playing a game, you could count it as exercise if it's at least consistent for 10 minutes, and you're not stopping a lot, and you're keeping your heart rate up. For some of us, it might be parking further back in the parking lot, so you have to work farther to go into, or walk farther to go into the store. If you taking stairs instead of the elevator, those things are physically active. You should be getting at least 30 minutes a day of physical activity. If you're not doing that, then that should be where you start, versus getting out there and doing resistance training, you know, walking a lot. Start with physical activity. I'm going to give you guys some sheets that are going to give you some steps that you can take when you first get started with exercise, or if you want to increase your intensity if you're already doing it. Just some basic guidelines that you can follow as a reminder, because I know we get up here and talk and it's hard to remember everything that we say. It's hard for me to remember everything I say. I think there's two there. You want to pass one on? You probably got one. So if we look at this sheet here, I'm going to give you a little bit information on each of these topics. Not too much, like I said, because I want you to go home and be able to remember a few things we talked about. But the first part talks about starting slowly and building up gradually. We know that this is to prevent injury, but this is also to make it less difficult so that we don't give up. You know, we want to feel, what can we do now that's doable? We've got some suggestions for warming up and cooling down. You know, get some blood flowing before you increase your intensity. So if I was on a treadmill, I might start out 2.5, 3 miles per hour walking, or maybe even 2, and then I'm gonna increase to 3.5 and go back to my 2.5. So think about starting out slow and gradually increasing and going back down. A good goal is 150 minutes of aerobic activity per week. I personally, just looking at some of these studies that they're doing over time at resistance training versus aerobic training, I think that you could substitute one of those sessions for resistance training if you want to, if you're keeping a steady pace while you're doing it, what I call circuit training, where you're moving from one station to the other, because you'll still get your heart rate up. And so you can combine two of those things together, and then you also get the benefits of increasing strength as you increase your resistance with your weights. Number 2 talks about breaking workouts into 2 or 3 sessions. What do you guys think? Do you think you can get as much benefit from doing 2 or 3 10-minute sessions as you would from just one 30-minute session? Does anybody want to guess? Yeah, she's shaking. Lynn's shaking her head. You're right. And actually, research shows there's actually more benefit to multiple sessions because you're doing it over time, over the day. Maybe you do 2 10-minute walks, or maybe you do one early and then you do another 10-minute, another 10-minute. And so you're giving your body the ability to maintain blood pressure over a period of time instead of doing it just in one session at one time. Another thing that they noticed is that the arteries and vessels were a lot more flexible when they did it over time over the day. And that's really good if anybody here knows of anybody that has peripheral artery disease. And really, honestly, most people by the age of 65 are already going to be experiencing some changes in their vessels, and they're going to become less flexible. They can become hardened, or they can become, I don't know exactly how. It's like, you think people that have hardening of the arteries, and then there's some people, it's kind of a difference in the flexibility and the hardening, but basically your vessels don't work like they used to. And so by doing these bouts 2 or 3 times a day, you can keep that flexibility throughout the day, which is really good for your body. So 2 or 3 sessions is great. The next one talks about being creative. The more muscles you use, the more intense your workout is. And so intensity doesn't have to mean that you're breathing really hard. It can mean that you're just challenging your body. And so also doing a variety of different types of workouts. So maybe one day I do resistance training, the next day I do aerobic training, then on the weekend I go for a hike, or I play a game with the kids. You know, variety is a good thing because your body has to constantly adjust to it. Because your body adapts really well. If I do the same thing every day, it gets a lot easier. I've either got to increase my time I'm doing it or make it harder in some way. And so varying the types of exercise you can do can help you to do that. There was a couple studies that I liked. One of them talked about strength training versus aerobic training, and they actually had a bigger increase in body fat in the strength training groups than they did the aerobic training groups. And so one's lifting weights or doing resistance training, which can be bands and balls as well, versus just walking or doing cycling. The ones who did the aerobic training alone actually lost muscle because resistance training helps you to maintain it. Remember at the beginning, we talked about how on average we lose 5 pounds of muscle per decade. And so it's really important that we're doing things to maintain muscle or even improve it. And then another study talked about how aerobic training alone did little to prevent muscle loss and metabolic decline. So out of all this information I've been looking at, and I talked about it last time with the last IN.Form class, I feel like a good take home to this is if you're going to start exercising, do resistance training. But at the same time, you need to understand how to do it correctly. So if you aren't sure, get some help. You want to make sure you're doing the good form. That actually leads into the number 4 in listening to your body. If you feel pain, shortness of breath, dizziness, nausea, take a break or get help to see if you need to modify or change the exercise you're doing. If it's joint pain, you might need to get some help to modify it or find out what you're doing wrong. Sometimes we have postural issues and we don't realize it. I mean, I wear orthotics, but when I first started wearing them, I was knock-kneed. And so when I would do squats, I would have hip pain. And so I had to change my posture to alleviate the pain. And the last part here, it talks about getting proper rest and recovery. a lot of athletes, I actually didn't include this in here, I just thought of this looking at it because I just did a nutrition program and it was really interesting to me that athletes actually had a higher risk of getting sick than sedentary people. Because when you overtrain, you really compromise your body's immune system. So it's better to take a day off and rest if you don't feel good than to keep pushing through. And if you can, when you first start working out, think about having a day in between, and that day in between might just be physical, just light physical activity. So it's good to be active, but don't overdo it and give your body a chance to recover. So, does anybody have any questions about that? I feel like it's so much information when I get up here and talk like I'm rambling. What I might talk about as your kind of a take home is the very last study that I wanted to share with you was one where there was 30 sedentary participants. That means these are people that didn't exercise before they were participants in the study. They did a 12-week program without dietary control, and so they didn't have a nutrition program. They could eat whatever they wanted, and they just did 12 weeks of intense training. So not low intensity, but intense training. And they lost an average of 1% body fat. So 1 pound of body fat is what they lost on average. Now compare that to another group who also did a 12-week challenge where they added intense exercise that did a nutrition program, and they lost on average 1 pound of body fat per week, so 12 pounds of body fat on average, versus the one that didn't have the dietary control. So that's our goal, is to combine the two of these things together so you guys can get the most benefit. And I kind of feel like if you're going to exercise, you better get the benefit because you're putting out the effort. If you're going to try to work on what you're eating and make healthy choices, then isn't it nice whenever you lose weight? It's like we want to work with these two things together so that we get the most out of the effort that we're making, and obviously so we can learn to maintain a healthy lifestyle as well. So if there's no questions, I'll leave you guys with that. And if anybody has any questions about where to start or what to do, I'll give you whatever information I can. I do offer classes and training, but there's also a lot of other things out there available if you need to do something on your own, or if you just want a good resource to answer some questions. So you let me know.
This is great. Ooh. Thank you, Shireen. Thank you so much. So hopefully you guys got out of that really, if you're going to take the time and the effort, spend money, do whatever you're going to do to get healthier, doing as much as you can, including the nutrition or the exercise portion, is going to get you a long ways, a lot faster. When I look at the whole program for the people who have incorporated exercise and or who have bumped up their exercise during the program, I've always seen more significant results with them right off the bat. The other ones kind of, they get results, but the results just don't come as quickly. And if you can get those results to come quicker, you're going to be more encouraged to stay on your program, and you're going to be more excited about what you're doing. And so I really just stress that we really work on exercise as much as we possibly can starting tomorrow, not waiting a couple weeks. Okay? I think that's kind of what I've done before in the past, is I've been like, okay, just kind of think about getting some exercise in, but no, we need to start something as of tomorrow. We need to have a goal, and we'll talk about that goal later on. So as far as the nutritional portion, I didn't quite finish everything. Just page 8 gives you a sample of some ways that you can get all that food in a day. Page 9 and page 10 actually give you a listing of all the different types of foods that are recommended. It also helps you outline what's a protein versus what's a fat, considered a fat and whatnot. So make sure as part of your homework for this week, you really go through these lists and make sure you understand exactly what is what. Nuts in this particular program are considered a protein, even though they are a fat also. The benefits of fat from nuts is a bonus, basically, but we are considering nuts to be a protein. Nuts are also a snack protein, not a meal protein. So we want to remember that when we are incorporating nuts, that they are a meal or a snack protein opposed to a meal protein. When you get over here onto page number 10, we got our fresh greens and lettuces. Fruits, I highly recommend sticking with your berries. Cherries, blackberries, blueberries, any kind of berries. Because berries have a tendency to have the most bang for the punch, okay? Most punch for the bang, which is it? Most bang for the buck. Anyway, you guys got me, right? You need some berries. Reason being is because sugars are generally low in berries, but also the antioxidants and the nutrition that you get from a berry versus a banana or versus even sometimes an apple is much greater. So you might as well eat for the most benefit. So I would highly encourage you to focus more on berries when you do choose a fruit on this program. Under oils and fats, you can see here that 1/8 of an avocado is considered 1 serving of fat. So it's very easy to get in your fats because the serving sizes are relatively very small. If you eat half of an avocado, you're looking at getting in 4 of your servings a day, just with fat. Now, I do want to make sure I stress, if you go over on fats, that is the last thing I'm going to complain about. Fats are very, very necessary for hormones and all sorts of different functions that we're going to talk about more in week 4 when we cover the cardiovascular system. But the thing is that we need to get those in. So if you go over, that's okay. Just make sure that they're the proper type of fat. But really work on how you can get those in. I add mine a lot to my smoothies to make sure I get that in for the day. Legumes, dairy, beverages. Beverages, we're doing water and herbal teas unlimited. That's herbal teas, not Lipton teas. Okay, actual herbal teas. Coffee or tea, if it's black, green, or white, 1 cup per day. So we're shooting for only 1 cup of coffee per day. I will tell you that if you stick with this program, you will find most likely that you will not crave coffee as much as you did at the beginning of this program just because of that. Recommended condiments and sweeteners, you can see all that stuff on there. Oh, let me go back to oils and fats real quick. Add on there hemp seed hearts, 1 tablespoon. Hemp seed hearts, 1 tablespoon. It's a really good healthy fat to have. And the other thing to add on there is 1 teaspoon of chia seeds. Chia seeds are also a really good healthy fat. So 1 teaspoon should come up underneath there in the oil and fat recommendations. Under the condiments and sweeteners, most everything I'm cool with. The only thing is soy sauce. I'm not a big fan of soy sauce. I would rather see you use something called tamari, T-A-M-A-R-I. Tamari is a fermented soybean that has a higher health benefit to it than regular soy. And as Shiree pointed out, most of your tamari is going to be gluten-free also.
What about the coconut aminos?
Wonderful. Wonderful. Yes, that's great. Salsas, just need to be careful with salsas because some people like to put sugar in their salsas. Otherwise, everything else is pretty much on target. Other sweeteners you might want to use would be agave. Of course, agave you would only want to stick to less than 1 tablespoon of that per day, but that could be an option. And xylitol is an option also, as long as it's non-GMO.
Monk fruit.
Yes, monk fruit. Yes, definitely. That's a new and upcoming way to use
I've
sweeteners.
gotten that, and it's sweet like sugar,
Yeah.
but where sugar kind of lasts, it's gone. The sweetness is gone after you have it.
Really?
Yeah, and I put it in my coffee, and it's not, it just like tones it down,
Yeah.
the bitterness down,
Yeah.
but it's not overwhelmingly sweet.
That's great. Great. So monk fruit. Acceptable.
A jumbo is right.
A jumbos? Okay. I think I saw some next door the other day too, and I was just
did
like
ya?
going through. I think so. I know it was an unusual sweetener. Page number 11 and 12 gives you a sample of an actual meal plan to follow for the week. You do not have to follow this particular plan, but for those people who need a plan and function better on a plan, here it is. So you want to get familiar with this, with your listings of foods, because Miss Sheila over there, she doesn't like olives. So Miss Sheila knows when it says olives on her food plan that she can substitute for olive oil or hemp seed hearts or avocado or whatever. Avocado is what you use. So make sure you get familiar with this if you're gonna follow this, so you can do your substitutions if you need some substitutions. Okay, sorry I forgot that earlier, guys. Any questions on the nutrition program? Real quickly, page 13 gives you some tips for success. This is part of your homework. Make sure you read through page 13 before next week. I'm not going to go through it with you tonight. This is something you need to do on your own, but it's going to help you organize more specifically on what you can do to get the most benefit out of your nutritional plan. So make sure you take time with that, please. All right, the next thing we're going to talk about is protein shakes and supplements, page number 6. So we're going to go back to page number 6. And we get another. I told you guys already we're going to starve and eliminate these bad guys, right? And the way that we do that is through resetting, also known as remove, repair, and replenish. This is what this program is all about. 80% of people try to eat healthy, but 90% of them fail. A couple of different reasons. One of them is they don't exercise, along with that healthy eating. Another one is they don't go through the full work of resetting, repairing, and replenishing. Sometimes they just replenish, but they replenish something that's not healthy in the first place, okay? The IN.Form products that are part of this clinically studied trial program are specifically put together to help us reset, remove, repair, and replenish. That's what we're specifically getting out of these products, along with our nutrition or exercise. This catapults us a lot quicker into results in this program. So in this program, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be taking 1 probiotic 3 times per day. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We got to put in the probiotics so we can repopulate and build up the population of the good guys, okay? 3 times a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The other thing we're going to take 3 times a day right along with that probiotic is your berberine. Berberine has a couple of different major functions in this program. One of them is it balances blood sugar levels. A lot of us are suffering from imbalanced blood sugar levels and we don't even know it. Diabetes is on a huge rampage in our country right now, including with our children. And the reason being is our blood sugars are completely off. Berberine helps put that back in its place. The other thing that berberine does is it drives a probiotic into the gut. It helps to put it there. It helps make sure that it gets set. And one of the ways that it does that is, remember those endotoxins we were talking about that these guys produce? This helps combat those endotoxins. So all the bad bacteria that's making toxicity in your gut right now, berberine's going to help take care of that too. I wouldn't call it a cleanser, but if I were to classify it as doing something, it is somewhat cleansing your gut because it's taking care of those toxins. That was the residue of those bad guys. The other thing you're going to be doing is you're going to be taking a cardio kit pack at night before you go to bed, either at dinner time or at bedtime. It comes in this little box right here. And this is very important for the cardiovascular system, as well as getting your multivitamin in, and also getting your essential fatty acids in. We'll talk about those more in week number 4. But the 2 big yellow ones are your essential fatty acids, very important for your heart as well as many other body functions. The green ones are your super supplemental, which is your multivitamin and mineral, very easily digestible and usable. And then of course the little capsules are going to be your cardio XLDL, which is a patented formula that specifically works with the cardiovascular system and gets the peripheral cardiovascular system, which is all the little blood capillaries in your fingers, in your toes, on the top of your skin. It's going to help the heart and the arteries and veins, but it's very unique that actually helps the topical areas more. This is where people who've had cold hands and cold feet before actually get really good results because you're actually getting more circulation to areas that you don't typically get circulation to. So this is taken at night, either with dinner or at bed. If you have a hard time taking all of these at one time, you can save the cardio, kind of take the other ones throughout the day, but the cardio XLDL need to be taken at night. And we'll talk about that more in week 4. The other portion of the program is going to be your IN.Form protein shakes. Now these are not any normal protein shakes. You can't really replace anything else with this, and expect to get the same benefit. Reason being is, like Pamela was asking earlier, we get inulin in here. Inulin is specifically a food that feeds these good guys. It's one of the many foods that do, but it's very specific in feeding the good microbiome. So you're getting inulin in here. The other thing that you're getting in here that you don't see in other protein powders is called phytosterols. Phytosterols are plant cholesterols. We make an abundance of our own cholesterol. We actually eat a lot less than what we think. We actually make more in our system. And then we absorb it, what we make ourselves. But if you take plant sterols, it blocks our body from absorbing that cholesterol that we make, and it helps us to eliminate it instead. So therefore helping us keep cholesterol levels balanced where they should be. So those are the two big reasons why. Sugar is another thing. We see a lot of sugar in a lot of protein shakes as well. When you do the 2 scoops of protein per day, 2 scoops twice per day, so 2 scoops of protein in this equal the same amount of sugar you would see in an apple. Okay? So it's a very low amount of sugar, but just enough to keep it sweet enough so that you can palate it as well. Okay? Now, on the protein shakes, you're going to be doing 2 scoops twice per day. So 4 scoops total of protein powder per day. A lot of people like to do a morning smoothie first thing, especially if you're not a morning eater, and add a few things to it. Add your hemp seed, add your coconut oil, add some other things to it as well. Maybe add some peanut butter. But you can make that morning smoothie into a meal very easily if that works for you. And then you can have another shake later on throughout the day as a snack. So you can have variety when you use the protein shakes, but they are very much important part of the whole IN.Form program in of itself and getting you where you want to go. So this is where a lot of people fail as well at their healthy programs and weight loss attempts, is because they're not doing this reset, repair, replenish. A lot of people will take probiotics, but they don't clean out the fish tank. Now, first of all, before we talk about that, let me just put this back here. I got too many things in my hand all of a sudden. How'd that happen? So I want to explain, first of all, how it compares, and I'm going to explain the fish tank analogy here a little bit more in a bit. When these clinically studied trial programs were taking place, they had 2 groups of people. They had one group of people who did the exercise, the classes, and the nutrition. Then they had a second group of people who did the classes, nutrition, exercise, and they did the products. The people who did the products versus the people who did not do the products had 56% more weight loss, 65% more fat loss, 125% greater reduction in systolic blood pressure, 62% greater reduction in diastolic blood pressure, triglycerides 66% greater reduction, total cholesterol 129%. That's just versus product versus not doing product but doing the rest of the program. That's how important these are. What I tell everybody at the beginning of this program is do the whole kit, everything all at once for the first month. And then we can evaluate how you feel and where you're going from there. But if you put everything into it, your nutrition, your exercise, coming to classes, and you do the products the first month, I guarantee you'll be feeling well enough that you'll want to continue doing most everything, if not everything, because of the difference that the products make in this particular program. Any questions on that, on how to take the product or anything? As we reset, remove, repair, replenish, think of your gut as a fish tank. Because literally that's what's happening. I've had a lot of people come to me over the years. They eat right, they exercise, they're taking their probiotic, but yet they still don't feel well. And the reason being is because they didn't clean out their gut first. They didn't fill out the fish tank. They're putting all these healthy, expensive fish in, but they're putting them in an environment that's nasty, that's foreign material in it, that's growing bad bacteria, that is not full of oxygen. So that's why we need to really work with our nutrition, our exercise, and the products, is so we can clean up this gut, clean up this fish tank, so these healthy fish can live, and you can have a fish tank like this in 9 to 13 weeks. Okay, let's move on. Page number 15 in your manual. So coming to class is really super important. You can sit and watch the videos, but there's nothing like interaction in the class. There's nothing like being around other people who are having some of the same goals that you are, wanting to be healthy, wanting to get off meds, just wanting more energy, whatever that is. Class is an integral part of this because you're also learning great new information every week that's going to assist you in being in control of your own health. So please make sure that you're doing your best to attend class every single week. Plus getting those BTAs every week help us out a lot too. Page number 16 is a sample of what you're going to find at every end of each module. Now, we're going to talk about the goals each week here in a little bit, but for right now, I want everybody to be thinking about what they want to see or what kind of goals they have for themselves in 9 to 13 weeks on this program. I want you to think about what you need. Do you want more energy? Do you want to balance weight? Do you want to get off a med? Do you just want to feel better when you wake up in the morning? You don't want to have so many aches and pains. Really think about what you would like to see happen in the next 9 weeks on this program. And I want you to write it in here at the end of week number 1 or module number 1. Okay? Is anybody right here, right now, know what they want to get out of the program off the top of their head? Next 9 weeks?
My usual.
Your usual?
I always want to lose weight.
Want to lose weight? Okay. Anybody else want to share?
Well, control my blood sugar like usual.
Like you control blood sugars? Great goals. Anybody else want to share? So I'm doing this program with you guys this time around. I actually got my measurements tonight from Shiree. So my goal for the program is A, of course, to do it along with y'all and support y'all. But really B is I've had a lot of stress in my life the last few weeks, well actually the last year, but really a lot the last few weeks. And I've really kind of fallen off what I normally do. And I really need a reset and I need accountability. And so I'm actually going to use that, since I have all of you guys, to be here with me. So that's one of the things that I'm looking forward to in the next 9 weeks is to get back into control. I'm eating too many carbohydrates, not the right kinds either. And really getting myself back to where I need to be at. Reducing my body fat is one thing that I'm really looking at doing. Of course, reducing my metabolic age. I didn't even look on that page to see what my metabolic age was.
I won't say I won't tell her.
Thank you. I know it's not where I'm at, which is supposed to be 48. I know that. So anyway, that's my goal for this program. So we're going to be doing this all together. So make sure you do take some time and write this out either yet tonight or first thing tomorrow, so that way we all know where you're going with that. Okay. So real quickly, I've got some nutritional quick guideline cards to give out. Some of you might already have these. I know Christy doesn't have one. Does anybody want an extra one to put up on their fridge or to have somewhere? Need an extra one? I have, but you know what? A second one will work good. There you go, if you want one. But this kind of gives you the outline of the nutrition and water that we're supposed to be doing. Put it in a quick reference area so that way you can see it on a regular basis. This is very helpful to use. The other thing that I want everybody to do is to fill out this health assessment. I know it says weight management assessment, but fill out the health assessment as to where you are at right now.
Are you gonna do one, Charles?
Yes, I'll do one.
I'll do one too.
Okay,
We'll do it together.
there you go, Christy. So if you guys can take some time tonight and fill these out. I'll get you guys one more.
You want to fill them out here?
Yeah, fill them out here, and you'll be turning those into the inbox right there.
Okay.
I need one more copy of that, please.
You do know the video hasn't been stopped, right?
We're good. I'm on video right now, right?
Yes.
Okay. So the health assessments, we're going to revisit those later on in the program. And so I want to make sure that you really get a chance to fill those out tonight. So that way we know where you're at from the beginning. We can assess your results a little bit more later on as we move through. And let's see, what else do we need? That's it for right now, I guess. Okay, so you guys look those over. I'm going to put something else up here real quick. That goes to Jerry Ann and George. Asher, when you get that. Okay. So, the word diet versus nutrition. First of all, does anybody see a word in diet?
Die.
Die. Exactly. Die. Obviously, the word diet has a lot of negative connotation to most all of us. I'd like to go through the room real quick, and can somebody please tell me, Jerry Ann, I'll just start with you. When you hear the word diet, what's the first thing that comes to your head?
Restriction.
Restriction. Lynn, what about you?
I'll do without what you like.
Doing without what you really like? Sheila?
Hunger.
Hunger. George?
Yeah, I'm hungry all the time.
Pam, what's the first word that or first thing that comes to your mind?
No sugar. No chocolate.
No sugar, no chocolate. Christy, do you have any thoughts that come to your mind? Hunger, exactly. So you can see most everything that we have here is something that really doesn't have a positive result for us. We think restriction, we think hunger, we think, oh, I can't have, I can't. You know, we think about things that maybe, you know, just are extremely uncomfortable for us. I really want to make sure that everybody from tonight moving forward realizes you are not on a diet. In fact, I want everybody to say it together. I am not on a diet. One more time. I am not on a diet. Okay. You are on a nutritional plan. A nutritional plan that's going to last you from here on out. It's a lifestyle change, as Shiree mentioned before. It's a lifestyle that we're creating here. Okay, so do not use the word diets. Diets are short term, and diets can be ugly. But nutrition, when you think of the word nutrition, Sheila, what do you think of?
Healthy.
Healthy. How many of us here want to be healthy? Right. So make sure that you're using that word to bring forth what you're actually wanting to have happen. You have friends, family, co-workers asking you what you're doing. You don't tell them you're on a diet, because you're not on a diet. So I want to make sure you guys axe that word immediately, because they're not going to understand what you're doing if you tell them on a diet. They're going to understand what pops into their head automatically. Ooh, that means you can't have this. Ooh, that means... When are you starting that? Let's go out for a girls' night first real quick before you start that. Over 80% of people try to eat healthy, over 90% of them fail. I already mentioned that. And the reason being is because they think they're on a diet. Diet also stands for destructive, industrialized example of total health. Our media has played a very big role in getting us to think that we need to be on a diet. We need to start thinking outside the box. That is not what gets us healthy. It may get us skinny for a class reunion to return right back to where we were and maybe worse a week or two later. Which brings me into using words. I talk about this normally in the 13-week program, but I'm going to start this right now and tonight. We need to use our words in a positive manner for ourselves. We need to speak of what we want or desire in our lives, not what we don't want. We want to speak reality into existence. And we don't do that when we say, oh, I have such a hard time losing weight, or I'm just never going to get healthy, or my numbers are just never going to come down. Literally, if you say that, what's going to happen? Those things are going to happen. But if you say, I'm getting healthier and healthier every day, guess what happens? You get healthier and healthier every day. I'm in the process of losing weight. That's what's going to happen. Don't set up roadblocks for yourself. Words are energy. They have a vibration to them. They also have perceptions of things around people around you. If you say to your group of girlfriends, oh, I just can never lose weight, or I can just never get back to this particular inches around my waist, the energy of that goes to them, and then they start believing it and thinking it too. So make sure you're using your words properly. Things you want to be careful with is trying versus I am. I'm trying to get healthy. No, I am getting healthy. All right? Another word is cheat versus flex. You don't cheat on this program. If you have a moment where you need to eat a little bit outside the box of the program, it's a flex meal. If you're one of those people who needs that light at the end of the tunnel, I'm going to do really good Sunday through Thursday, and I'm going to eat whatever, or Friday afternoon, and I'm going to eat whatever I want, whatever I desire. I want my glass of wine, I want my burger, I want my fries, whatever, Friday night. If that gets you through the week and helps you stay strong, then do that. But this is where you need to know yourself. If that's motivating for you, it's personally very motivating for me. I know that if I can have whatever I want Friday night, that I do much better the whole week. I make better choices. Some people, though, can't do well on that. They're the type of people where if they flex one night, then they flex the whole day or the whole week. So this is where you need to start deciphering who you are. You need to know yourself well enough to know how to set yourself up. So that way you can be successful through this whole program. Okay? So like I said, we're not using the word cheat, we're using the word flex. So if you come to class and we're having a discussion, you're not going to say I cheated on the program or I cheated what I thought I ate. You just had a flex meal or whatever it is. Okay? You need to create a mind movie in your head that you actually play in your head of where you want to be at. You need to visualize yourself and see where you want to be at. If you're working on, running and going a certain length of time, you need to visualize yourself doing that. If you want to be in a certain pair of pants that you have hanging in the closet, you need to visualize yourself wearing that. If you want to, want to make healthy choices every time you go out with your friends on food or drinks, visualize yourself doing that. So use your visualization as well as your words to create your reality. And we'll talk about this more later on in the 9 weeks, but we want to start that immediately. All right, so I think we'll skip that one right now. Next thing we want to do is talk about goal setting. So let's go to page number 18. All right. Page number 17, number 18 talks about the good old days versus now. This is something I'm going to let you guys go through and read on your own, but basically what it's talking about is our food portions have changed, our sources of our food have changed, we're no longer going to our gardens and picking fresh fruits and vegetables. We're going to a marketplace where things have traveled thousands of miles just to get to us, and so our eating has gotten off kilter. We go out to eat a lot and we rely on somebody else to fix us fresh, healthy foods, which we know that doesn't really happen. So that's what this page talks about. Be sure you read through it so you've got an idea of where we've come from and where we are right now, so you know where we're going to return to. Page number 19 is a hunger scale. One of the things you're going to be doing this week is you're going to start looking at your hunger level every time you eat. Okay? When you look at the hunger scale, we want to get in between zones 4, 5, and 6. We don't want to be eating at zones 7, 8, 9, and 10. 7, 8, 9, and 10 is when we're so full we have to unbuckle our pants and roll ourselves to the door. Okay? That's not what we want. You also don't want to be so hungry that you're hangry, which is hungry and angry all at the same time. That's 1, 2, and 3. Stay out of that zone. You want to be eating when you feel hungry, but signs and symptoms are manageable. Or where you feel neutral, but you know the hunger is on the horizon. Or you are comfortable and you know you can eat with control. All right? This is the zones we want to eat in. So I'm going to give anybody who needs a copy of this, I know Christy, you'll need one. Put this up somewhere where you have that accessible. Anybody else need an extra one? Anyone? Okay. So that's what you're going to be looking at doing this week. Page number 20 talks to you about your 6 sources of influence. Go over that on your own. Page number 21. Sure I'm not skipping anything. We're going to go into food journals. Food journals, we're going to start food journals immediately. So as of tomorrow, I want you to start thinking about writing down your foods and get in the habit of trying to do that within the next 2 or 3 days. Write down your snacks, write down your meals, write down your water, write down emotions. You can even track your steps. This is very helpful for me to help you more. Because if you get on the scale and things are showing something that I need to look into more and I can look at a food journal, then that's going to help me help you more. So please start getting in the habit of writing down your foods. If you've got something on your phone you want to keep track that way, that's fine. But this week you need to investigate ways that work best for you in keeping track of a food journal. And like I said, go ahead and make sure exercise is in there as well.
There's some apps where you take a picture of what you're eating too, that people find that easier.
Oh, wow.
Which I thought was cool, because people don't want to take the time to write it down.
Yeah.
You just click picture. Which also helps with how you record, because they'll say, well, I just had a couple pieces. If you have to take a picture of it, you count that you had 10.
Yes.
So
A
just-
whole package of Oreos or the 2 sitting over
Yeah,
here.
it's like, take a picture and then you count.
Great. Page number 22 talks about other things that people track in their food journals. So make sure you read through that as well. Page number 23. All right, page number 23. So we are going to be setting SMART goals every week. For right now, I don't want you to think about the 9 week down the road. I want you to think about this week and this week only. What can you do this week to move you towards that 90-day goal or 9-week goal that you guys are setting tonight? Okay? Just think about this week. So we're going to be setting SMART goals, something that's specific. We don't want to just say I'm going to eat healthier. We're going to say I'm going to make sure I get my 2 snacks and 3 meals in a day. Or I'm going to make sure I eat first thing in the morning. Get specific. Not I'm going to get more exercise, but I'm going to make sure every time I go somewhere I park at the end of the parking lot so I get more steps in. Make sure it's specific. Next thing, it needs to be measurable. I'm going to get my 90 ounces of water in per day. Measurable, not I'm going to drink more water. Okay? It needs to be specific and measurable. Accountable. It needs to be something that you can be accountable for, not something you rely on somebody else for. Okay? Something that you're accountable for. You can't blame it on the dog. You can't blame it on your husband. You can't blame it on your wife. It's you. You need to be the one who's accountable for this. You're the one who makes this happen. It needs to be realistic. If you are not exercising at all, do not go out and just join a gym and write that down. I'm going to go exercise 5 days a week, an hour a day. That's crazy. Do something realistic. Okay? Something you know that you can potentially attain, but don't set yourself up for failure. Okay? It needs to be realistic. And of course, time bound. Time bound means this week. So from tonight until next time we meet next week, this is when you're going to do it. Time bound. Here to next week. You're going to set 2 to 3 goals each week. Normally in this program we only set 1. We're going to set 3 goals, 2 to 3 goals every single week. One of them is going to be around nutrition and or supplements, protein shakes, and the other one's going to be exercise. So we're actually going to set an actual exercise goal every single week and a nutrition/supplement goal every single week. And sometimes I'm going to ask you to set 3 goals, and that third one is probably going to be more around emotions or around speaking your reality into your life, whatever that may be. But so tonight you need to set 2 goals for this week only. Everybody understand? And of course you'll write it over here and you're going to have some homework. All right. Any questions about goals? Okay. And of course, most everybody knows, but Christy, just so you're aware, we will have sheets that we're going to be handing out each week for your BioTracker numbers and where you can write your goals down. And not everybody needs to see those. You can just write them down. You can put them in the inbox over there, and then we're good to go. But I do want to be aware of what your goals are every single week. Okay? All right. So we're going to wrap this up real quick. And I'm going to give you a little story. I've been telling this story for over 20 years, and I think it's really unique that I get to stand up here and still talk about the gut microbiome and eliminations and digestion. I've been doing that for so long. But now I'm actually really teaching on it. So one day, the gut and all the organs of the body were having a conversation. The brain was talking, the liver was talking, the heart was talking, everybody was having a discussion. And they were discussing who was the most important organ in the body. Who was the most important? And of course the heart said, well, I think I'm the most important. I'm the one that pumps the blood, gives oxygen to all the cells and the tissues, helps pump the nutrition through. Obviously I'm the most important. And of course the liver says, no, I don't think so. I perform over 500 functions in the body. I filter the blood. I balance hormones. I help with digestion. I must be the most important. And of course the brain argues because the brain says, hey, guess what? Without my control, y'all wouldn't be doing anything. I kind of regulate everything going on here. You want to get up out of bed, well then I'm involved. If you want to breathe, I'm involved. Because the brain controls all of those things. And of course, after all the organs continued to go through the debate, the gut, standing in the corner, cleared his throat and said, I think I'm the most important. And of course, none of them believed him at first until the gut explained. I'm the one who digests the food. I'm the one that separates the nutrients from the fiber. I'm the one that makes sure that the nutrients get available so you all can feed. I'm the one that separates out the toxins and sends them out the back end so you don't have to live in a toxic pool. I'm the one that does all of these things to help all of you do what you do. And it's very true. To this day, after 20 years of telling this story, it is more true than it ever has been. The gut is the most important of every organ you have. If you have a heart issue, you have a gut issue. If you have a memory, focus, thinking, brain issue, you have a gut issue. If you have kidney issues, you have a gut issue. So as we leave here tonight, I want to thank everybody for being here. Next week we are talking about protein. We're going to talk about the importance of protein, how to eat protein, stages of digestion of protein. We're going to talk about water and the importance of water and how to get water in to best hydrate the cells, and a few other special things that we're going to have next week. So as I said, I thank you very much for being here. We're going to do some smoothies real quick tonight for you guys. My favorite smoothie was a cherry smoothie. And we'll see y'all next week. Have a healthy week.
Thank you.